Hi, this is Rick Manelius, and today I wanted to go over a little tutorial on how to pick the best Drupal module. Drupal is a wonderful CMS, but it has a lot of different options to do the same task. And a lot of users who come to it from a different CMS, like maybe WordPress or Joomla, or not a CMS at all, are sometimes overwhelmed by the number of options that you can have to do even the simplest of things. And so making the right decision is critical because for upgrade paths and for site maintenance and stability, you want to pick the module that fits your needs and doesn't introduce any sort of problems down the road for you. And so I'm going to go over an example I recently did for a client, which is how to create a simple like this button on a home page. And right now we're going to look at 4 different modules that do this type of thing, or at least are Facebook related. FB Connect, FB, Facebook, and FB Social. So we're going to sort of put this through a series of tests to sort of determine which one would best serve our needs. The first and most important thing to look at is features. Obviously, a module is not very useful if it doesn't do the thing you want to do. But more importantly, do we want something that just does one thing very well, or do you want more of a Swiss Army knife module that can do a lot of different things? The advantage of just getting a thing that does a single task is that it probably does it really well, but it may not provide you an upgrade path to do more things if you want to expand. On the other hand, if you need a Swiss Army knife module or you use one like that, you may have a lot of code that you aren't using, and that could add a performance hit, or if something is buggy on another part of the module, it can affect the one that you're using. So let's look at these 4 modules. The first is FB Connect, and you typically want to look at the front page because it's going to explain the front of the project page, because it's going to explain to you what the key features of this module are. And as you notice here, this particular module doesn't really have a like feature, or at least doesn't explicitly state it. So we want to jump to the next one. Drupal for Facebook does seem to do a little bit more, but it doesn't really explicitly state that. Now you could dive deeper into the documentation to find out if it does, but you typically want to at least see that feature listed prominently on the front page. Facebook integration, this one, which hasn't been updated or posted in 2010, doesn't really look like much is going on in it at all. And then FB Social, hey, look at this. The following are currently implemented. Like button, comments, like box, boom. So this one definitely has the feature we want, along with a bunch of other things. So the question you'd have to face is is it worth getting this whole module if you just need one piece? But that's just the first parameter. But of the 3, this is the one, or of the 4 modules we've looked at, this one explicitly states that it uses the feature we need. So that's obviously, and in some instances you can just stop right there. If it's the only one that does the thing you need to do, then you pretty much have to go with it. But I believe this one actually does as well. So we'll just keep going through this process just to vet it a little bit further. The second is usage. You want to make sure that the module that you're using at least has some sort of user base. Modules that aren't used typically can get abandoned, and people can forget about it, or it may work great, but it doesn't have any upgrade path because 2 years will go by and nothing will happen on it. So how many sites can determine both its popularity and also the community around it, like how many people are actively involved in either making it, debugging it, and so forth. So let's look at these ones again. So this one, FB Connect, has about 4,448, and then we have FB, which has 4,000. We have this one, which has essentially 0, and we have this one with 9,000. So at first glance, this one definitely seems to have more popularity and is used by more people. And it makes sense because it does more things, at least it appears so relative to the other modules. You definitely wouldn't want to go with this one unless you were like a developer and wanted to test out some things, because you just have no idea if this module is going to last. Second, stability. Is it stable or is it buggy? One way to do this is to sort of look at a couple parameters. The first, do they have an official launch? Usually if something is always in dev, or there's a huge gap between dev and the release, that could mean it's pretty buggy. Or, I mean, this could be stable, but the features you want could be all the way down the road. Another way to look at is the issue queue. So far, this module here has 650 issues, and only 250 are still open. This module has 1,300 total tickets and 650 open. This one just has one, which isn't a good thing because it's not being used. And this one has 300 tickets and 100 open. So the most popular module here has the least number of tickets. And that actually speaks pretty well for it. That means it seems like the fewest number of people are finding bugs with it, and that's probably why it could, is the most popular of the bunch. If you saw, say, 800 or 1,000 total tickets and 100 open, you can be pretty sure that this maintainer is doing a good job of closing as many tickets as possible. If the number of tickets is open is close to the number of total tickets, then you know that there's a lot of instability and the module isn't being repaired, or there's a lot of feature requests that aren't being fulfilled, and so there may be some stability issues. You can also, again, look at, is it alpha, is it dev, is it fully released? Different maintainers have different parameters as to what makes it an official release versus a beta versus an alpha, but you really want to make sure that there's some sort of robustness to it. This one, for example, doesn't have a stable 7x branch, so for Drupal 7 you can still use this and it still probably works. The maintainer may just be a little bit conservative and just call it a dev still, but if you're running a site and it depends on it, it's mission critical, you may want something that at least has, and here we have at least an alpha. Again, it can be nitpicky as to like what defines an alpha and a dev, but if they're not full releases, you may want to ask the maintainer if they feel it's stable enough to use. Activity. Do the maintainers respond quickly? If you were to jump into the queue, when was the last update? Here we have 2 days, 3 days, 3 days, 1 week. That's fairly long if you have a mission critical problem here. And let's look at this one here. What do we got here? 1 hour, 7 hours, 21 hours, 1 day, 1 day. So now this module had a lot more bugs on it and a lot more issues open and so forth. So it may require more response and more, discussion in issue queue. But if we were to go back to this one and we looked at the open issue queues, this one obviously, again, it's unknown and it's been 15 weeks since it's been updated, and this one has been 13 hours, 1 day. Okay, so they're all generally about the same except for that other one. Now, I've seen some modules will have a response that won't occur in a week or a month, and one in particular, Views Data Source, which is a very popular module in Drupal 6, went a year before the maintainer, and actually the maintainer never responded. The module had to be given to another maintainer. So it was an amazing module, but you couldn't get any patches committed, and that can be a huge barrier to developing and sort of having a stable product. Another parameter you can use, though some people may question this a little bit more, is the maintainer itself. If you have the choice between two modules that are sort of of equal value and activity and so forth, you may want to check out who's maintaining it. For instance, let's look at this guy, Dave Cohen. Now, Dave has been going to DrupalCon ever since 2008, and it's 2011 as of the taping of this video. So for 3 years, he's been going to the big Drupal conferences, and he maintains a significant number of projects. So that speaks well to that project, because this guy probably knows, to be able to maintain that many modules, he must be doing something right. Now let's look at the FB Social one, which is another popular one. Okay, so this guy attended DrupalCon in 2008, and he does have some projects, but it's not as much, and that's fine. It's nothing. That's not a red flag. That's still someone that you could respect and put your trust in. And then this guy, this is pretty much his only project, and he hasn't been doing as much, going to as many conferences and so forth. He may be in Russia, so that may influence his decision to do that. So right away, this one I'd be a little bit more worried about the maintainer if the maintainer stopped being active in the community versus, say, Dave Cohen here, who seems to be very active and consistently coming. So you know that the features are going to keep being developed and so forth. if someone like Merlin of Chaos or Dave Reed or those guys, if it's a module from them, you know very well that A, it's going to be a good module, B, there's going to be some community support behind it, and C, it's going to be around. Because last thing you want to do is put all your eggs developing for a module, and then a year go by and you have no more development on it, and you have to spend all your own time doing the development on it. So that's another thing. And then test. The last and most important piece of the puzzle is like, does it actually work? You have to have some sort of local development environment or some testing environment that you can ensure that that module is going to work, because a module can promise all these things, and this module may be very good at all these things, but if you turn it on and it just physically can't work, then this module is no longer useful to us. You can then post an issue, and hopefully those tickets and those issues are resolved. But if they're not, you may have to cut your losses or develop your own module or so forth. And then finally, even though I don't have it in here, the simple like button, you may not actually need a module for that at all, to be honest with you. If in looking at all these 4 different things, these 4 different modules, if they just provide too much, too little, too buggy, too this, too that, and if you can just write a little quick thing yourself, the problem is you're going to have to maintain it because it's now your module and no one knows about it. But sometimes that may be a better option if you have the skills to do so. So just to review, we had a simple requirement. We wanted to get a like this button. We had 4 different modules, and we want to look at features, usage, stability, issues, activity, maintainers, and does it actually work through a test. And at the end of the day, it was the FB Social module we used because A, it has a large community of people using it. B, the number of tickets open was relatively minor, both open and total. It implements lots of different features. So even though we just needed the like button, we wanted to make sure that this particular client was really focused on expanding to more stuff later on. So we wanted to have that just able to just check it, another checkbox, and turn those other features on. And when we tested it, it worked. So that's how we were able to sort of quickly pare down between all the different options to find the exact module we needed. For your use case, you may need to do something different, but if you use that type of process, you're going to have the best possible chance of picking the right module for both now and down the road for you. So I hope you found this very useful. If you have any questions, please leave a comment in the comments field below. And if people keep liking these videos, I'll be glad to do some more tutorials based on what I know about Drupal. So thank you very much, and I appreciate you watching.